I'm sorry.
That's quite all right.
Third time I've upset John today. Good evening, everybody. I would ask you to put your phones on vibrate or silent as I call this regularly scheduled town council meeting for February the 9th, 2026 to order at 6:02 p.m. If you'd stand for the pledge and remain standing for the invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most loving and gracious Father, we just thank you for another day to serve, another day in the land of the living. Give us the wisdom to make the decisions that are appropriate for the town and for all people. In his name we pray. Amen.
February.
Mayor Pro Tem Everline,
Here.
Councilor Arnold,
Present.
Councilor Lanneman,
Present.
Councilor Miles,
Here.
Mayor Wells.
Yeah.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for coming out. We'll move on to the agenda review and approval. Any changes anybody wants to make?
I move we approve the agenda as written.
Second.
Before we do that, just checking to see if anybody had anything. I personally would like to table one item. That item being the resolution 2026-004, should I say, planning and zoning schedule of fees. Obviously, only having got this at the weekend and having some monster minutes to review, I would just like more time to look at that.
I tend to agree with you because I was going to propose a continuation of that item. But the reason I was going to propose that is it and the very next item, which is the existing fee structure, which is provided, I guess, as part of that it's second item of the 7 or 8 items that are there, are very hard to follow in that there's no comparison of before and after.
Correct.
And I think when the staff brings it back, they should have a before and after comparison for us to review for all of the items to facilitate us. For example, we talked about if a person had an under 5 acre annexation, say a lot, that the $300 fee that one lot owner had to pay would be a little bit on the high side. And when I looked at it on this schedule, because it was an item that I was interested in, it was $2,000, $500 for the fee and $1,500 for a deposit. And I think we want to encourage annexation, not discourage it. So I'm not sure I'm pleased with that particular change. So I agree with you on removing it from the agenda and bringing it back at the next meeting. But we should have a comparison spreadsheet that compares the current fee schedule to the new fee schedule.
Yeah, I think having some rationale behind that. One of the items that I looked at was residential variance. The current situation is that we charge $400 for a fee and $1,000 for pass-through. And now we've increased the fee to $800 and reduced the pass-through to $800 as well. I don't understand the rationale behind that. That's a
$200 increase out of pocket to the applicant.
Well, of course, that's assuming that he uses all the pass-through, but I just like to understand the rationale of where we've got to on that. And before I do that, is just to have a look at the changes and the fees. Obviously, we've got some comparisons against Umatilla and Montverde. Um, you know, Montverde, I can tell you because they did it when I was there. They just decided the pass-through on everything was $5,000. There was no rationale behind it or how much people were going to spend. They just put it at 5,000. So checking stuff necessarily against Montverde doesn't work in my eyes, but
Well, and Montverde and Montverde, Groveland, Umatilla were not the only ones used. They also looked at Belle Isle and a few other places. April.
Yes, those were the three that you provided to us in detail. And I agree with the mayor. And I found that Umatilla's list was generally much lower than the other two cities who were somewhat comparable to each other in some regards, but I would support the mayor's contention that we should amend the agenda, so I withdraw my second.
I second to advance it to the next meeting for more study time. And if we can have that comparison table, that would make it a little bit easier instead of flipping back and forth through different data, if that's possible.
So you want to see it not just side by side with the previous town amount, but also in comparison with the other municipalities?
I'd like to see three columns as a minimum. The before, the proposed after, and a third column
comparables.
being the difference between the two, either plus or minus.
Well, but I think Council Lanham is also asking for something else in addition to that, which would be the
Which would
comparables of the other
also-
cities.
Yes, which would also include cities that have already been studied in comparison. That would be helpful as opposed to having to go through the internet
If you
and
did
search
that in
all
the
of
fourth,
this.
fifth, and sixth column, but keep the first three columns
yeah.
being
Old, proposed,
old, new
difference.
difference.
And the
That'll work.
do we have a motion and a second? I think.
No, you still have a motion only from Councilor Arnold, unless he withdraws his original motion.
I would like to withdraw my motion.
All right, now you need to get a motion.
I'll make a motion that
Seconding.
we remove resolution 2026-004 per the mayor's suggestion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. If there's no other changes to the agenda, can I have a motion to accept the revised agenda?
Make a motion to accept the revised agenda.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Moves unanimously. Okay, over to the public. Any person wishing to address the mayor and town council on an item that is not on tonight's agenda is asked to come to the podium and give us your name and address. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelby Cramble, 104 South Mare Avenue. Dear City Council, I would like to say that I am extremely disappointed in your decision for the approval of the 7-Eleven being constructed in our community. Not only did the Planning and Zoning Committee deny this project, but our community has also had a large number of people who did not want this constructed. I have spoken to numerous members of this community, and they are opposed to this. You are elected to be our voice and be the voice for our people in this community, and your current actions just prove to all of us that you are not here to make the right decisions. I would like to state that the only member of this council who supports and listens to us as residents is Councilman Everline. We love this small town and the charm that it currently has. Adding a 7-Eleven, a Publix, or any other commercial properties will take away our charm. If I had known that Howey was going to turn into the next Groveland or Mount Dora, I would have bought my forever home elsewhere. With this upcoming election, I will be running for a spot on council to ensure that the people of this community have a voice that will be listened to. I also advise anybody here today or listening online to also run so that we can keep the charm of our small community. Thank you.
Alan Hayes, 111 Island Drive. I'm so glad we have this opportunity to express ourselves before town council, our friends and neighbors at large. This time of year, when you renew your rules and regulations regarding civility, decorum, and especially ethics, I'm confused by some of the recent decisions made by this town council. From our own town website, I'd like to remind the mayor and councilors exactly what your responsibilities are. This is from your website. Your responsibility are to adopt the town council's annual budget, set the ad valorem tax rate and fees, enact ordinances and resolutions in accordance with state law, appoint the town manager and attorney, approve your land use policies, establish utility rates, appoint members to advisory boards and committees. And lastly, but most importantly, you are to represent the interests of the town and its residents. In your most recent decisions, can you say with honesty, conviction, and integrity that you've done that? Represented the interests of the town of Howey and its residents? In a recent poll taken at John Howey's birthday, 110 out of 126 respondents, that's 87%, expressed their defiant opposition to 7-Eleven. And you all rolled over, went against your own planning and zoning board's recommendation and your constituents and voted for it. Was it because the town attorney or the town planner scared you into you thinking you might be sued? I think that's inappropriate and reckless. Potentially changing your minds on how to vote. For some reason, you're spineless and weak in the face of developers. You hold all the cards. You guys decide what they can do and where they can do it. And yet you let them walk all over you. I'm confused. Rather than try and guilt or persuade you into doing the right thing, I'm going to dedicate my time, talent, and treasure to finding and promoting a group of counselors that want to listen to their residents and follow what their residents want this town to be.
These guys are a tough act to follow. Brad Smith, 120 East Hawley Street, Howey-in-the-Hills, Florida. A couple items, back in November, the 11/24/2025 council meeting, there were a couple motions and votes taken upon restoration of the town fire truck. Both of those were denied by town council. I made a recommendation at that meeting from this very podium to possibly seek out finding someone to donate the truck to, let them do the restoration at their expense, and in turn, make that truck available to the town for town functions, the parade, Christmas parade and whatever. I've been working with some folks at the Florida Antique Bucket Brigade. I have found an interested party in that arrangement. I made this individual very well aware that I'm not a town official. I'm just a citizen. This was a proposal I made and I'm passing that on. If the town is interested, I can relay that information to whomever that would be, for them to contact this individual and look into that process.
So the gentleman who's going to raise his hand in the back right now, that's your contact, Mr. Morgan Cate.
Okay, thank you very much. Secondly, in the meeting last Monday, at the very end of the meeting, after the vote had been taken, and I'm not going to debate the outcome of the meeting, I'm going to read the last paragraph from the minutes of the meeting. Councilor Arnold went on record as making a statement. He wanted the record reflect that two specific points before adjournment. First, he noted the letters of support for the project had been submitted and acknowledged as part of the official record. Second, he stated, while many residents provide testimony in opposition to the proposal, the testimony in his view did not meet the legal standard for competent substantial evidence required in a quasi-judicial proceeding. He emphasized that the council was required to base its decision on legally sufficient evidence rather than personal opinions or general opposition to the project. Of the five letters received or put on the town packet, There was only one that listed any facts. The others were very opinion and emotion based. So that's just a point of, for the record. Secondly, following or during that conversation, I very much thought I heard him reference Mr. Hausman's record, I'm sorry, a letter stating factual information about that. And I also thought I heard him say that had Mr. Hausman been present at the December 18th Planning and Zoning meeting, that the vote by Planning and Zoning would not have been unanimous. I do not see that reflected in the minutes anywhere. And I thought that perhaps I had just imagined that. I contacted a couple other citizens that were at the meeting last week. They said they remembered the same. And so I went out to the video, not just today, but several times this week, and replayed Counselor Arnold's on the record statement. And that bit of information was not in there. And there appears to be a splice in the video at the 4 hour, 2 minute and 9 second point. Now, I don't mean to be a conspiracy theorist, but as he's speaking, there's a blip in the video, but none of that part about Mr. Hausman's letter is on the video.
There is a splice only because the recorder won't go past 4 hours. So I had to combine it with a second source that I have. So that's not a conspiracy. That's just
Okay.
the meeting went further than technology allows the recording to go.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So, and so,
Yes, I believe it.
That's fine. Anybody online, John? No. There's no further public comment, then I'll close public comment. We'll move on to the consent agenda. We have 4 items on there, 3 sets of minutes, one from February 2nd, January 26th, and January the 12th. And also the consideration and approval of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board member selection. The I noticed on the packet, which was not there on Sunday, that there's a couple of additional drafts to the first 2 sets of minutes with
Yeah,
changes.
I submitted this morning to the town manager 2 minor adjustments. One to the January 26th meeting in paragraph 9, the third subparagraph in paragraph 9, which was a presentation by Mr. Cates discussing the work on the 2 bypass pumps, which are lift station 1 and 2 of the and they provide sewer service to Venetia. The minutes only said lift station number 2. I clearly remember Mr. Cates saying lift stations number 1 and 2. So I asked for that correction to add and lift station number 1, or lift station number 1 and lift station number 2. And the minutes on February the 2nd involving the item that was just discussed for the approval, the motion which I made and was seconded by Counselor Lanneman had 11 conditions on it. Those 11 conditions, by the way, as an aside, address virtually all of the concerns, if not all of the concerns, that have been expressed by the planning board. And I would note that on the preceding meeting, there were a couple items on that agenda where the council did uphold the proposals from, or the recommendations from the planning board. We are not a rubber stamp. We do generally approve things that the planning board approves, but in some cases, we may see it different. And that happened on February 2nd. But the condition, number 8 of the 11 conditions we placed on the developer, it states that left turn arrows will be painted at all 4 approaches to the stoplight that the developer is required to produce. And my motion didn't address that, but it also addressed making sure there were left turn arrow lights on the stoplight itself. And so that was the second amendment that was made, and that's why they had to put out I read the minutes very carefully, and they're minor little things. Wanted to make sure that they were clearly stated, because it will be important once this is done. The traffic going into Venezia Boulevard is a concern, I think, of several of us. And that traffic light needs to be there.
Yeah. Well, I understood your motion to be exactly how you said it. I was a little surprised about the painting, but nevertheless, you picked it up. So
And Councilor Miles had stated it a certain way originally, but then through the conversation, I think about 10 minutes in, there was a clarification.
Right.
And so that was added into the final version.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to put in there's no guarantee of a stoplight. FDOT does not have to approve the stoplight there. It's their road. True. So
That
just
is
keep that in
true.
mind.
But that is a condition of approval. So
One of,
keep that in mind.
One of the things
No.
that I also raised, if you all recall too, is this, and I did speak about it with the town manager earlier this week in regard to the traffic, that road going through Palazzo. I actually did another site visit to it and have other suggestions, but we did talk about that we still have a lot more work that have to be done and final site plans and so forth. And I certainly have a different suggestion on how that traffic needs to be rerouted as opposed to it going through Palazzo like that. Yeah, from the north end, because that'll be a part of the shopping area. So if they go in, I just think that it's just, the more I look at it, definitely that's gotta be a
Yes,
condition.
they are proposing an entrance at the north end also.
Correct.
But that's for right turn only traffic, because I guess FDOT has already told them it's a no-go to allow people to make a left turn at that curve.
The median,
end.
the cut through, yeah,
Right.
that's just not gonna,
But
Be
there will
good.
be, for people that are northbound, they will have an entrance directly in on the northern side.
Yes, he's not
That
talking
you
about
tell
at
me.
the median on Venezia.
right, no,
He's
well,
talking about on
Like off
Palm,
of
you're not gonna be
19.
able to turn left.
right, it's a right in, right out.
Right.
And then what I'm suggesting is so that it'll look more, it'll be better and I think safer. We talked about this, is that, you got the right in, right out, but also since the shopping center is closer to the north end where that cut just before, between the school and that shopping center and the Spine Road, based on what I'm seeing on the map, why not force that traffic in that direction? Because cutting through the median at, in Venezia and having that through traffic going through the townhouses, I'm just thinking about how I would feel if I lived in the townhouses and having that amount of traffic going from one end to the other.
There was a 20-foot buffer that they're adding, that they agreed to also, that they.
No,
proposed.
not by the school, Tim. It's not. If you were to do a site visit, you'll see the school is quite a ways, and then there's like this road.
Three lots away.
Mhm. Yeah.
well,
So there's a lot more. I know that we got a long way to go with this, but I'm just wanting to put it on record, and
that's
that
fine.
needs to be
You got to bear in
something
mind,
different.
that that was simply to approve the conditional use for the 7-Eleven for the gas. And as it was stated in there, if there was a convenience store without gas, we'd have the exact same situation. It's just
That's
that
true. They wouldn't have had to come to us at all.
they would not. So
So
there's going to be a lot more
it's-
water go under this bridge to get that. We are concerned, as was depicted at that meeting, about the safety at that intersection and also the safety with the children. So we will have plenty of input into that.
Yes.
So on the basis of Councillor Miles's changes, do I have a motion?
I also have some changes I'd like to make. And this is also for the February 2nd meeting. Under my comments, I did not see my comments regarding the rendering of the 7-Eleven, that design. I stated that it did not fit with anything in the town, and I'd like that to be included in the minutes. That I stated a concern regarding the rendering, as I did not believe it matched any of the architectural designs in the town. So I'd like that inserted. And also in my comments at the end of the meeting, I did not say I was embarrassed to be on town council. I said I was embarrassed to be on this town council. And that's an entirely different view. So if you can include those, I'd appreciate it.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the two changes that I outlined to the two sets of minutes and the changes to the opinion expressed by Mayor Pro Tem Everline to be added into the minutes for the February 2nd meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion approves 4-1. That includes the consideration approval of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board member selection. We have no public hearing or old business, so we'll move on to new business. Consideration and approval of RFP 2026-001 line of credit water treatment. 3. Do you want me to read the title of the resolution, Sean, or?
It's not a resolution. RFP.
Then in regard to number 4,
Yes. Oh, and
Oh,
four
the RFP, I see what you're saying. So
for the consent agenda.
no,
Yeah, that person.
that person, what happened?
Well, you just approved.
You just approved
the
it.
consent agenda together.
because it was.
Because it was on there,
Yeah.
on that consent agenda,
Yeah.
got it,
Which is
okay.
what I stated
I mean,
last time.
Typically, we pull the items,
Yeah,
vote on
pull
the
it.
remaining consent,
Yeah,
and then we
yeah,
discuss
yeah.
the remaining items. We do it a little
Here,
Should be on the
bundled.
regular agenda.
together.
Is that person present?
is she here?
I do not see her here. She is a renewal. We didn't have
Yeah,
any
she's
competing
not
applicants,
new.
and she's
For like since 2019 or whatever.
Yes,
So,
been on
but I share Tim's viewpoint in the 9 years that I was a clerk, we never ever had a consent agenda at all. But
for,
Can be
things
confused.
are different.
for anything.
But anything. Everything was brought out. And to be honest with you, like minutes, they're just, we could have 3-4 sets of minutes and a motion we made to approve the minutes and they would all be voted on, except Mr. Teeters, who voted on none of them.
Well, I think this woman would have been approved, so it's not a question of that.
No, I know.
I think it's just, it should be on the agenda to be discussed. And hopefully, whoever the individual is for whatever committee will come and introduce themselves and so forth. I know that's not required, it's just.
Yeah. I think probably if somebody was new joining one of the boards, particularly the likes of the planning and zoning board, that would be a must. But this is a renewal of somebody who's been on it for a long time. So who would like to?
She is online, by the way. Mr. Huseman has pointed out to us.
Okay. Well, congratulations then.
Her
You
first.
tag you're it.
Yes.
So who wants to Who wants to take on the RFP?
Well, I'll introduce it a little bit and then I'll pass it off to our finance supervisor. So we put out RFP 2026-001, line of credit water treatment plant number 3. It was not 100% clear perhaps in the staff report, but there was only one submission. So when we talk about the one submission, that was the submission, the only submission that was received. Mr. Ojeda, would you like to tell us about this?
Sorry. Well, the bid from Seacoast is included in the packet. I assume you all got a chance to look at that. Do you have any questions regarding the bid?
Are we talking about borrowing $6 million?
No, it's a line of credit. It has a maximum limit of 6 million. So at the start, it's really 0. And then as we need the money, that amount increases. So we could end up with a loan of 3 million, 2 million, well, probably not 2 million, 4 million, but the 6 million, that's the limit. That's the
Right.
maximum.
I know that we had directed them to bid it at 3.1 million and at 6 million. And apparently they did. Facility A in the memo is 3.1 million. Facility B is 6 million. Did both proposals from Seacoast, which was the only bidder on it, come in at the same interest rate at 4.30 fixed?
Yes.
Okay, with a 45-day rate lock, so we have 45 days to approve it. It's got a 10-year maturity.
Did you say 45 days too?
They're locking their rate offer
Hmm.
for 45 days, is what it says here.
That is correct.
Right. And the only reason I'm not questioning what you're saying, it's just that there was another part in there which says that if we don't approve it within a week, then it expires. Did I not
So
see
that might be the agreement expiring, which includes extra things like no origination fee.
Right, I noticed that the customary loan documentation expenses are not to exceed 12,500. And I believe that we need to make a motion for one amount or the other. In talking with the town manager this morning, he provided me a spreadsheet. I don't know if everybody else has seen this spreadsheet, but it's kind of a cash flow of the general fund during this fiscal year, beginning in December, running into next fiscal year, ending in December. So it's a 13-month period of time. And it basically shows the estimated expenditures for the water treatment plant number 3 as provided by the contractor. It shows an estimated cost for the 12-inch main construction, which has to be done. And it shows an estimated breakout towards the end of the year for the retrofit of water treatment plant 1. Both of those are essential to make the entire system work, as I understand. And then the next column of it shows the amount of negative balance or the amount of disbursements total for those 3 projects that will be made in that month. And the next column shows the state reimbursement for the grant, the $5.7 million grant that we have. The next column shows the 1.8 million in impact fee receipt during the month of August. They have their monthly O&M expenses shown for each and every month, an average of 130,000 each month for things other than the water plant. The amount of the line of credit that has to be drawn each month is the net of the preceding columns. And in red, it shows the amounts of payoff. There are some months where we can actually reduce the line of credit. Like August, it shows we can reduce the line of credit by almost 1.8 million. But the bottom line is by December of this year, it shows a line of credit balance requirement of $3,960,000. If we award Exhibit A, or what did you call it? You called it
Facility.
Facility A is only 3.1 million. And if we need a line of credit of 3.96 million, as this analysis shows, and these are all estimates, of course, it could be 100,000 higher or 100,000 lower in any given month, or maybe even 200,000, but it does show a drain on our cash that peaks at just under $4 million. Since we bid it out at 3.1 and 6 million, the 3.1 million, in my estimation, won't cut it. It won't do the job. The 6 million max amount will do the job and provide us a buffer above, but we only need to borrow what we need in any given month. So if in December of 26, which is this coming December, our need is 3.2 million, then that's all we're gonna borrow is 3.2 million. The 3.1 and the 6 million were a cap. I have one other point. Back last August or September, I did a check on borrowing money with a different bank than the one we ended up with. And they told me at that time, if they issued it, a line of credit in the order of magnitude we were talking about, their interest rate would be 4.71% for a tax exempt borrowing. I guesstimated at one of the meetings at that time frame that interest rates would come down about a half a percentage point, which would be about 4.21%. I also think that if we had not done this bifurcated thing, we would have gotten more banks to bid on the contract. But the 4.3% is very close to what I thought we would be interest rate wise at this time. If we had done just one facility instead of two, I think we might have gotten 4 or 5 basis points lower. But this is an attractive interest rate at this time. And I recommend, I'm not making a motion yet because I want everybody else to feel comfortable, but I'm recommending that we go with the 6 million maximum cap. It has a 10-year final maturity, and that
What will be the payments, the monthly payments?
So it's, okay.
It depends on the balance.
it depends upon the
Well,
amount
yeah,
that's drawn
let's-
each month.
Right,
And it's
so
interest only for the first,
interest
the
only.
36.
So let's say
Yes, for the
if
first
it is
36 months, I
4
made that
million,
point.
for 4 million, just let's say 4
Bear,
million.
bear in mind, within the first year, if you take from now to the end of the year, what it will take to complete the project, the interest just alone is just $44,000. Now, we're also, once you start getting 4.3% of $4 million, and somebody can work that out while I'm talking, obviously that is a lot more. The other thing that this doesn't take into consideration, it's not a given, but obviously we have gone to the legislature and asked them for more appropriations for this project. And certainly the meeting that I was in with Representative Yukowski and also the town manager, he was very, very bullish, and as was Senator Trudeau, that their view was they've already got their leg in with us. They need to see it through. I think there's a possibility we may get 2 million. If that happens, then that 4 million becomes 2 million in total. And of course, it doesn't stop there because that then is that debt is going to be reduced with future impact fees. And it's also potentially going to reduce by us going back to the legislature in 2027 and asking them for more money in order to complete the project.
Yeah, and there's no prepayment penalty also, is that correct?
Hey, let me just say one thing, Mayor, about what you just said. One of my issues with this whole council and the people in City Hall, they don't communicate with us. Now, I was just in Tallahassee and had a meeting with Senator Trudeau. No idea you guys spoke with him.
Well,
I would have had a perfect
I didn't
opportunity.
speak with Trudeau. I spoke with Yukowski.
Okay, well, I did know about Yurkowski, but not from you guys. Somebody else told me. And I did leave. Yurkowski was in a committee meeting, but I did talk with his aide, and I followed up with an email saying, hey, we'd like you to move on this. We have to communicate with each other. I swear it's like people want to operate behind closed doors. And I don't understand that. We need to be transparent with each other.
No, I'm pretty sure, Tim, that over the period of time since Sean and I met, this has come up in conversation when we've been talking about borrowing. And I'm absolutely certain that I have brought up that we've had that meeting. Not right before you went to Tallahassee, but
We've talked
And maybe
about,
you did. I'm not going to disagree with that. But after that meeting, what you do is you simply send an email to everyone on our supposed team that you had this meeting and that this is what you proposed. And if all of you, any chance you get, support that, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
I think over the last 6 months, I think we've talked at least a half a dozen meetings about how we've applied for $4 million in appropriations.
Yes, you have.
And that's to our respective representatives.
All I'm saying
and
is it
Trudeau.
takes 30 seconds to send an email.
Okay.
You don't do it. It would be very helpful if it would be done. That's all I'm saying.
Can I ask a question of the attorney? We sent this out for competitive bid. We sent it out with two alternatives. One alternative was at 3.1 million maximum cap. The other one was at 6.0 million maximum cap. Can we negotiate a different cap if we desire, or do we have to award either Exhibit A or Exhibit B?
Because the way they responded was that we could combine them. But your question, okay.
It will depend also on what
Yes.
what the actual RFP said too. Because a lot of times in RFP, when you put the RFP out, a city will put in there that there could be an alternative to be negotiated. It depends on what the exact language of the RFP itself says.
Based on that, I'm a little concerned about 4 million, because it's only $40,000 away from the 3,960,000 that we're projecting to need in December. But
Oh, you're saying if the appropriation were to come through?
no, I'm
Oh.
saying if the appropriation doesn't come through,
Oh,
politicians, if everything was built on politicians' promises, we would be where Howie is right now. But anyhow, I'm not sure, there is no assurance that they
No,
will
there's
deliver the bacon. I think there's a good chance they
Yeah.
will, but there's no assurance they will.
My concern is putting the town in debt. I mean, I know that it's a line of credit, but if you have a line of credit for 6 million and these different things come up and the appropriation doesn't come through, then that means that the town will have to draw on it and they have to get paid. And my concern with so many things going on, especially when we are talking about the proposal for ad valorem taxes being removed from various properties. This is something that is real, and because the town of Howey is so small, and for what we receive as ad valorem, that is a concern for me when we talk about monthly payments and how
We're
is it
not
going to
pledging
impact.
taxes on
This
this.
would be water utility.
But that's still
You know,
revenue.
it
It's
is.
still
And it'd be
revenue.
the amount.
I'm looking at it as just revenue.
There is, correct me if I'm wrong, there is not a pledge of the town's ad valorem borrowing capacity, Mr. Attorney.
You are correct, unless you have a vote or referendum and you're not doing that.
Correct, and I'm not sure I heard an answer. I heard what you said, but my question is, because when we get ready to make a motion, is the motion to approve either Exhibit A or not exhibit,
Facility.
Facility A or
Facility A or Facility B? Or can I introduce a number somewhere in between that in the motion?
Aren't we gonna have 1.7 million?
Could I
Isn't
get
that
an
why
an-
the
Could I get
CBD
an
was voting?
answer to my question first?
Yes.
Typically in a RFP, and I don't know if that language was in this RFP, there is language in there which specifically says that when a town receives a bid or proposal, that the town can accept that or something else that would be negotiated, whatever's in the best interest of the town. And I would expect that language was something like that was probably in the RFP
Okay.
itself.
Because they responded to both the 3.1 and the 6 million, I think they're amenable to negotiating amount somewhere between those
But
two.
the interest rate is the same for both. If
Correct.
we can't take 3.1 because it's not enough, as we've found with the cash flow forecast. Equally, and just for your answer, Renee, by the way, that in the second year, if we had no further appropriations, the interest will be about 170,000. So 40,000 this year, 170,000 next year. But because 3.1 is not enough, we know that 6 million is 2 million more, but we're only going to borrow what we need to borrow and only pay the interest on what we have to borrow. So if we have to go with 6 million, I mean, I was never in favor of it, but on the basis of what I've just convinced myself of, I don't, and we don't have a
Let me offer a motion, and I know we still have to have public input and all that at,
Can I get my
At-
question answered
yes.
before you?
at $5 million as a cap on the line of credit. I'm just throwing that number out as,
Can I just say one quick thing? The difference between 3.1 and 6 is that there is no differences besides the end of that, and that's what the bank has given us. If you take the 6, all you have to do is instruct the staff
not to
not to
spend.
spend over X without coming back to you guys,
And that
and it won't be spent.
and
So if you don't want us to spend over 4 million without coming back, that's all you have to do. But you really want the 6 in case there's an emergency, because you've already instructed us to sign the contract with the people to build the water treatment plant. One way or the other, we're on the hook for those being built.
And of the variables that Mr. Brock is kind of indicating, you know, we have the second project and the third project, and if they come in 20% higher each, we're bringing those in for council approval through that process. If we get a change order for the current project, that's a sizable change order, well, that's coming before council as well. So I mean, we do want leeway for change orders, potential inflation, all that.
Yes, I agree with Mr. Brock. You know,
Yeah,
I'm
I
the
do
one that
too.
suggested 6 million.
I just, all I'm getting at is
But-
I wouldn't tie the hands
Okay, we get
of the
it.
town.
But I would also put in a caveat that it can only be spent on this.
Yes,
It can.
I agree with
mean, that's
that.
what we've already.
And the answer to your other question is that the 1.8 million is already in that cash
It's in
flow
the
forecast.
calculation.
Oh, yeah, that's all, okay. I didn't know that.
I mean, the 4 million utilization by the end of the three projects, right? The water treatment plant, the 12-inch water main, and the retrofit of the old plant. That's a $4 million proposed utilization. That's a pretty solid forecast. There's a lot of variables, but as much as we can nail that down today, but again, having that extra leeway will make us all sleep a little better at night. But everything will be brought to council before we bring in any considerable extra expenditures on top of that.
Especially if the state becomes slow on paying back.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we are under a reimbursement situation for the current level of grants that we have. So we have to outlay the money first. That is the biggest part of what we need this for, is so that we have the ability to pay for the,
To pay the contractor
Right,
before we get reimbursed.
right. And if they suddenly start getting slower and slower, there have been times when they've been at a year in arrears for different projects. If that becomes the case here, we're really going to be in trouble if we don't have the $6 million.
The reimbursement, just so that you know, also, when this was done on a very conservative basis. Telephone conversation with the man at the DP. We actually asked him whether or not they had an expedited way of paying us back. He told us that they do, and that we could actually, unless it's changed, that we are actually able to submit the reimbursement without all of the backup material, and they will pay us, providing that by the time we want the next dollop of cash, that we must have everything in order for the one we've just had. So instead of maybe it being a month, 6 weeks, we're talking more in the line of weeks.
Pretty fair to middling estimate. It could be a lot better, and we could get appropriations and instantaneous reimbursements, or things could cost a little bit more and be a little slower than we planned. But this 4 million plan with an up to 6 million cap, talking to council along the way is the staff recommendation.
See that when you look at this also, the 311,000, which is the December amount, that's part of the information that was given to us by the contractor. We've got that in this forecast being refunded to us, reimbursed to us in February. So if you take that December one, it gets paid in January, that reduces the amount of borrowing that we have, and that's a knock-on effect all the way through there. It doesn't actually affect it because we'll pay no interest in the first 4 months anyway. But it would help us if we can get that further down the line. But it's something we believe that we will get, but we also wanted to be conservative to make sure that we're not going to have something that's come up and bite us on the backside as well. So this document really does spell it out, and it's got a lot of detail in it, which I think is comforting from the point of view of this council, because we don't have a choice. We have to borrow. But I think there's a lot of favorable things that we can also look at that's going to make it a better proposition.
I just have a clarifying question in regard to, what is the reason, again, we are not paying interest in the first 4 months?
Because we're able to use Avalon taxes in the first 4 months, because the actual reimbursements are very low. And at this moment in time, we have a high amount of Avalon taxes. And what's also been put into this is that there is a cap, if you like, of $1,000 of Avalon taxes to be left in the pot all the way through this
$1 million.
process.
Not one.
So I think
Well, yes,
Mayor Wells was just indicating we wouldn't be utilizing the line of credit until a certain point. We'd
Yes.
be using our
If we can use our own cash, we will. and that's being put
Right.
inside of here.
And I didn't mention that, but they're not gonna draw our cash balance below $1 million.
Cause you know, that's my number one concern.
Be-
Always.
Because they gotta make sure everything else is running
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah, we have to have, several months, 3-4 months at least of reserves in the bank.
Months in the reserve, that was one of the conversations. 6 months of reserve.
Well, we also
Or-
put in here 130,000 a month, and what that 130,000 is the difference between revenues that are non-ad valorem and expenses that are going out. We are negative roughly that amount. We looked at it in several ways. We went from 120 to 140. So there's 130 in there. So there's another $1.4 million of buffer that's in there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of variables in all of this. The amount of construction they're going to do in a given month is certainly not going to match their projections initially. It already doesn't. But again, staff is pretty confident in staying well under that threshold with a $6 million line of credit, and hopefully at the end of all 3 projects, not really having used much more than 4 million of that.
Oscar, what's your opinion on why only one bank responded?
So the town in the past has only done business with local banks. A lot of the local banks in the area are very small. They don't have the kind of money to give out.
So it was too big for them.
It's too
Yeah.
big for them, yeah.
I think they maxed out at like
I-
4 million.
I did talk to Robert Dredd from United Southern Bank because I have a relationship with him, and he did call me back. And when I told him that we'd actually the borrowing was probably going to reduce from 6 to 4, he just said no, it's still out of their ballpark. So outside of Seacoast, I mean, Seacoast has like 75 branches, so they're not small, but they're not a Chase or a Wells Fargo. So I think from a security point of view, it seemed like a decent deal, particularly with the 4.3 down from 4.7. That makes a huge difference as well.
Yeah. 4.3 is about where I expected us to be at this time. Do we make a motion now or have the public input first?
So let's just have any input from the public on this item only. Then I'll close public comment, bring it back to you, Councillor.
I would like to make a motion that we accept the Facility B. Keep on calling it Exhibit B. Make a motion that we accept the Facility B proposal to award to Seacoast Bank the project of a line of credit in an amount not to exceed $6.0 million that would provide all the parameters in the staff report, including a maximum of 12,500 in closing costs, including no prepayment penalty, including an interest rate not to exceed 4.30% fixed, and all other factors that are stated by staff in their memo.
I don't think, Counselor, I don't think the 12.5 or the $12,500 is the closing cost. I think that is the fees for their
Loan
counsel.
documentation.
Exactly. I think if you look at the other costs on the bottom, it doesn't really say what the cap is for the closing costs.
Loan documentation is normally considered closing costs, but if you want me to change my wording to loan documentation.
No, I'm just concerned that you go back and they say that $12,500 is for the drafts of the loan documents only. That was my concern.
Yeah, you would have to remove that part.
Do we need to include in that motion the fact this money can be used for nothing else, or is that?
Yeah, and this motion can only be used for the 3 projects that were enumerated in the RFP.
I would like to also add to that motion if staff can just come back to us once they get to 4 million if needed.
Okay. And that staff is required to get council approval to borrow an amount in excess of 4 million.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? This is financial and also a contract, so we'll have a roll call vote, please, John.
Counselor Lanneman,
Yes.
Counselor Arnold,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Everline,
Yes.
Counselor Miles,
Yes.
Mayor Wells.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 6 of new business, consideration and approval of the Lake Hills PUD Phase 1 final subdivision plan.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're it, April.
And councilors. This item that is before you is for the final subdivision plan for Lake Hills PUD Phase 1. Staff has reviewed the proposed subdivision plan to ensure that it meets the land development code requirements and also the development agreement requirements. So that is what is presented to you. One of the things that we did want to point out is that the plan shows gates at the access points of the development. And as discussed with the planning board, the recommendation is that their recommendation for approval of that was contingent on the CDD being approved, which was approved by town council on January 26th. There is an item that I added to the staff report regarding a request for a waiver. This is from the town engineer's report. And a waiver is being requested for a sidewalk along County Road 48 due to the geography there. Evidently, there's a steep slope and there's constructability challenges. So the town engineer agrees with that assessment and recommends approval of the waiver across that portion of the project. So that's included with the motion for approval. So that really is the nuts and bolts of it. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have, and the applicant is here as well. Thank you.
Is the applicant going to make a presentation?
I don't think particularly. We don't have an official presentation, just
Good evening, Council. Dean Barbary with Reader Communities, 5850 TG Lee Boulevard, Orlando. And I have Charlie Crawford here as well with Toll Brothers. We're here to answer any questions you have and are happy to do that, and appreciate you kind of moving us to the next phase of the project, which is the first phase of what should be 3 phases that will come before you over time.
Go ahead.
Did the county also recommend not putting the sidewalk in because of their future widening?
That's what was claimed. Who'd you speak with on that?
We're working with the county on the roundabout. I know that question may come up. We are working to finalize the details of the roundabout. What they've asked us to design is kind of a roundabout that will accommodate ultimately a 4-laning of 48 at a time to be determined in the future. We don't know when that would be. And so we have a sidewalk for that portion. And then ultimately, what they have indicated is, if and when they widen 48 between the roundabout and what will be 19 and 48 intersection, that they would add a sidewalk to that. So,
Okay, I spoke with Commissioner Parks today. The 4-lane on County Road 48 is listed on their long-range transportation plans. They have absolutely no funding for it. And if you follow what goes on in Lake County with the roads, the chance of there being a 4-lane there in the next 10 years is about slim to none. So if there's no sidewalk there, how are people that have a disability going to be able to get into Publix?
one thing I'll remind you of is on Summer Lane Drive, which is the connector from basically the Mission Resort over to Publix. We'll have
Okay.
a 5-foot sidewalk on one side and a 12-foot trail on the other.
And how about around that traffic circle?
There'll be sidewalk, there'll be a cross cart connection, which will cross from Mission Resort over to the bike trail. And there's like a area of refuge is what they call it, which is basically you come across one lane to an area, like a median area, then you'd cross the other lane as well. And so those are the details the county's very focused on. Seth Clark is kind of their reviewer. And then they have I guess a roundabout guru, Oswald, who's, comes up with all the various details of how to make that as safe as it can be.
The engineer in Lake County is Jeff Earhart. Did you speak with him?
He's been involved. I think Seth is leading the day-to-day, but I think he's been involved in that. So.
Seth Lynch works.
I'm
Seth
sorry.
Lynch works with Jeff Earhart. Yep.
Yeah. So, sorry, I misstated Seth.
Okay, now what about the sidewalk on 19 that's in the developers agreement?
That frontage is with Publix, and we don't own any frontage on 19, so I would say Publix would be working that out with FDOT. So.
Do you know any frontage? What about that public park and all that? Isn't that your frontage?
The park is not on 19. All the frontage along 19 is the frontage of Publix.
Oh, I thought you owned down to 19.
We do not.
Okay.
I have 9
Yeah, I've got more
questions that I would like to ask them.
Absolutely.
But did you want, Mr. Arnold, did you want to, or I should say Colonel Arnold, did you want to address anything?
No, I just asked the question. I thought the county had also recommended not putting the sidewalk in there. I just know it's gonna be one heck of a steep grade.
Yeah.
The sidewalk's put in. I'm not so sure you want to walk it.
Well, you fill it in to bring it up to the level, but it costs money.
Yeah, and there is a that's in the CDD area too, that sidewalk.
I mean, the sidewalk, if you look at like Hillside Grove, they put the sidewalk in the right of way. So in the current right of way, the topo is so severe in that location and the slope is so severe in that location.
No, I was just wondering if the walk is in the area that was approved for the CDD.
I guess the technical boundary of the CDD is inside the property boundary, the sidewalk. I guess the precedent has been it's been in the right of way for Lake County. So.
Okay.
Can I start my group with them? Some of these are very, very minor
For sure.
things and don't even pertain to you as the developer. My first one, there is a document that was presented to us in the agenda entitled Howey Water Details. In note number 1 on that document, it refers to it being prepared by the city of Tavares. It should be noted that this is the town of Howey-in-the-Hills on that document. My next one. This is the second fairly major change to approval plans that reduce costs to the developers. The first one being, which passed by a 3-2 vote, to not put a traffic circle on 19, but rather to put a traffic light there. This one is to delete the sidewalk along Route 48. And I don't question the deletion. It is a very steep slope there. What I am questioning, both of these changes do substantially reduce the cost to the developer of those 2 projects.
It does.
What recompense is the town receiving for your cost savings?
I mean, again, I think the roundabout 19 conversation is really a Publix frontage conversation. So I won't necessarily be able to address that. I think the sidewalk is really just the feasibility of any sidewalk that was placed there, if and when, and it's a question of when Lake County constructs that road, they would remove anything that was constructed there to construct the 4-lane road. And again, on the roundabout, they're asking us to basically provide a 4-lane section. So when at the point in time in the future, they connect in, it's basically plug and play.
And I ask it in a more blunt term. since you didn't respond to my question. How much money are you gonna save by removing the sidewalk?
Good question.
That's a fair question. Obviously, I agree there would be money not putting the sidewalk in. I don't know that I have an exact number, but there would be some level of savings of that. So
Ballpark it, of course.
$25,000-$30,000 maybe? I
Well,
don't
then-
know.
Then why would you not want to do it if that's all it is?
Well, I would say in a traditional just sidewalk sense with no grade accommodation like that. So, I mean, to put a sidewalk in that way with retaining walls and all that, it'd be multi-million dollars.
Now, that's what I'm
So,
getting to.
yeah.
In the developer's agreement, it clearly states that whoever develops this is supposed to put a sidewalk there. And Counselor Miles is exactly right. If we waive this, you guys are saving buku dollars. And he's simply asking a question. And I'd like the answer to that too.
I was thinking it was be more in the 50 to 100,000 range. Are you gonna build? Phase one is really the southernmost part, southwesternmost part
Yeah, the directions are tricky here.
of that sidewalk. Phase two and phase three don't have the steep slope problem along County Route 48 that phase one does. Matter of fact, I noticed you did, I think, 3 separate tiers elevation to go down because of the steepness of the hill on the northwestern side of phase one.
Mhm.
But could we consider a return of, say, $50,000 that would be devoted for extra park equipment to be placed in the facility in phase one as recompense for the deletion of the sidewalk?
I would say for the deletion of the sidewalk on 48, as we've requested, we would make a contribution to the town for that
What
deletion to
town?
be used as the town decided. So
I think
Okay.
that little generous myself, Counselor Miles.
$50,000. Now, what amount does the developer think would be appropriate?
50,000 would be our amount.
David, you never put in, you know that experience.
Yeah, I know.
Table first. That becomes the limit.
Well,
I
thanks.
think 50,000 is an appropriate amount. If it was the entire sidewalk, I would have gone for 100,000, but I think they're gonna do in phase two and phase three, they're gonna put the sidewalk in. It's only phase one that they have that, and it's a reasonable request on their part. But I think providing $50,000 to the would be
For the water
fair.
tower.
For whatever purpose the town desires is what he
For the
said.
record, for the
And
water tower.
that money should just be set aside for council at some
Everyone
future
else-
date to decide what they want to do with it.
Okay.
Because I'm sure there's going to be something specific, and it's always handy to have that in your back pocket. And I think that's a generous offer.
Is
Dean.
it,
Thank
is
you.
it still safe to assume, it's always dangerous, but, so folks that would be over Las Colinas, will need to go to Publix, could still come across the traffic circle and go up Summer Lane, up to Publix that way. Would that be an easier grade? Than trying to do along the highway there? I think it would be.
I mean, Summer Lane is designed, the section has a 5-foot sidewalk on, I'll say one side of the road and then a 12-foot bike trail on the other. So they'll be able to cross across the roundabout from Las Colinas and then make their way to Publix.
Is that a more manageable grade? I mean.
Yeah, it's an engineered grade. I don't recall the percent, but it's an engineered grade and should be
Not
acceptable.
like, well, 15%.
No, it's much more gradual. So, yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Make sure you get that amount in the minute, please. Okay. Comment number 3 by the engineer. On right of way width. There was a question about the turn radius on streets being 35 degrees rather than 25 degrees. In addition to that, the right-of-way width of all your interior roads was set at 50 feet rather than 60 feet, which is our normal in our new plan. I saw on one chart that you had made that correction at the request of the engineer. Was that done on all of the charts?
I don't recall the charts. I know that the radius to 35 foot was a request of the engineer and we accommodated that request.
Yeah, I saw that it was accommodated on one, but I didn't go through each plat. I mean, they were all done.
My engineer just confirmed it was all the radiuses there.
Okay. Okay, comment number 4 by the engineer was responded to by you as the developer, and I'm talking you plural,
Yes.
by disagreeing with some of the crosswalks that the engineer had asked to be added. This is the painting, the striping of the crosswalks at various different corners. And you came back and said some of them were not warranted. And then you said you were going to set up a meeting with our engineer to discuss that. Could you tell me the outcome of the crosswalk discussion?
I'll let David confirm, our engineer. So
there's a long history there of disagreement between myself and Don on how many were practically appropriate, but we ended up doing all the ones that Don wanted. So
Okay.
what Don asked for ended up getting put in the plans that were submitted late December.
So they will all be included then.
Yes, sir.
And you feel that what you guys came up with will meet the complete streets requirement?
In my opinion, it exceeds it, sir. Okay.
My next comment. You indicated in comment 8 involving in landscaping that all the street trees were being removed from the landscape plans. But I didn't see where you put that back in.
I think Mrs. Fisher can address that point.
Yes, yes, sir. So that came out of a discussion that I had with the applicant. They were trying to figure out how to fit all the required trees on the individual lots. So originally they were showing the street trees as a separate tree requirement. So we took a look at the land development code, and the land development code doesn't require an additional street tree. You have to have the street tree on each individual lot. And so what they did is they decided to provide the street tree detail as part of the lot detail that shows the total required number of trees.
When we revised the code last summer, 2 summers ago, one of the things that we did is put in, and I saw in many places, requirement for root barriers on the trees. But we also put a requirement that all street trees had to be a minimum of 8.5 feet from, we compromised. Some of us wanted 10, some wanted different numbers, but they have to be at least 8.5 feet from any sidewalk. It seems logical that they would also have to be a minimum of 8.5 feet from any building or structure also at an absolute minimum. When I looked at many of the plats that were here, I had a question. If you add 8.5 and 8.5, that comes to 17. Is there enough room for 17 feet to keep these street trees from not only not being too close to the sidewalks, but not too close to the houses?
So the way that the land development code reads is that the specific location for one of the canopy trees must be in the front yard at 7.5 to 10 feet from the sidewalk or lot line. And that has to be a street tree. So they've they've got 7.5 to 10 feet to work with.
I'm wondering if 10 years from now, we're gonna have to hire 2 clerks to process all of the tree removal permits that are requested by the people that live in this development. Because not only does it require the 4-inch caliper tree, and I've learned something this morning. DBH, I think is the acronym that means
Diameter at breast height.
diameter at breast height.
Yeah.
Okay, so there has to be a 4-inch diameter at breast height tree in the front yard. And 2.5 diameter trees in the backyard. But 10 years later, all 3 of those trees, assuming they survive, which didn't happen to me, Joe, but assuming they survive 10 years, they're gonna have trunks like this.
Especially if they're live oaks.
Yeah, live oaks is gonna be a
Because
problem.
live oaks
That-
are very intrusive. That
Are
was
we
the number
create-
one problem.
And this is a question both for the planning staff and for the developer. Are we is our code creating a problem? I'm sorry.
I would agree that
Yeah.
it does, because you've got smaller lot sizes, that it can be difficult to fit those trees there. So in staff review, I don't have the ability to, based on what the code says, I don't have the ability to negotiate a waiver from the requirements. They have to demonstrate that they can meet them, which it's demonstrated, but council can waive the provisions of the code to do something different with landscaping if you would like
Okay,
to.
that's a very big concern. I note that we also have a category called understory trees.
Yes, sir.
In this, I hate to do it in this development, but I am very concerned on these tiny 50, 40 and 50-foot lots that they have in this development, which were evidently approved in 2016 by a previous council. I'm very concerned that when these trees mature, that we're going to have some problems. Can we waive the requirement for the street trees and insert a requirement for understory trees? And if we do so, what would the understory trees be?
Remember, we talked about the crepe myrtle. Those crepe myrtles were the understory trees that were considered street, for the yard.
Yes, they're not the only one, but
I'm not concerned about this because the CDD is required to maintain it.
no, the individual property owners will be required to maintain the,
Sidewalks,
no, these are going to be on their lots.
That's correct.
but you're moving them from the street onto the lots, is that correct?
It's not moving it from the way I understood is that it's written so that each individual lot has that street tree on it.
Their lot.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you put it out at the street, then it wouldn't be the building. It would be
Well-
the sidewalk. And they
Yeah.
don't want to pay for the barriers.
I lived in a subdivision where they put laurel oaks in. And 6 years after they put them in, all the sidewalks in our subdivision were going kablooey.
What happens?
And my wife, one night I came home and she had all 3 trees removed. That was on our lot. And I said,
The root barriers.
yes, and then I had to go and buy crepe myrtles and put them in their place. But what specific trees? I'm really worried about putting live oaks into these tiny little lots.
So
And live oaks, magnolias, and one other type of tree.
Break elm, so the
Rake elms are the 3 choices that they have on street trees. And what are the choices on the understory trees?
there's quite a few choices on the understory trees. The code only specifies that for street trees, you have to be one of those specific three. And actually, the Drake elm was, if you can't be one of the three, we could consider Drake elm. So there's a lot of flexibility, and this is actually some of the stuff that we talked about. And they've got in their plans the table that shows the list of each type of tree. So there's a lot of opportunity for understory trees, and they have experts who know what might work best there. But council does have the ability, per the code, to waive any of the landscaping requirements if you think something would work better.
Once again, if we waive that requirement, last time I priced a live oak, which was about 1998, they cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $300 each at a 3-inch caliper, which is what the city I was with at that time required. There is a lot of potential savings for the developer if we go to a smaller caliber tree, but would the smaller caliber trees, how tall would they grow?
Well, when they're planted, they're required to, let's see if I have it here. So it has to be, what's required in the code currently is an understory tree has to be a 2.5-inch caliper when it's planted. And I don't remember if that's 8 feet. I know the canopy trees are required to be 10 feet, so it's going to be something less than that. The one thing that the code does say in the waiver process is that part of that is in section 7.10.02 that you consider, it says other street trees, but I think you could consider other trees and define them as a street tree in this place. But then it goes on to say that they would enter into an agreement with the town. And so if you're if you're mitigating for a different requirement, then you could agree to a contribution to the town's landscaping fund. So if you're wondering about the size difference and how that could be mitigated, they can
Yes.
donate to the landscaping.
I'm going to put a condition on this approval, or I'm going to recommend for a condition that that the town planner negotiate with the developer to arrive at a mitigation amount per understory tree and come back and clear it with us at a later date and with the developer. But I really think that we should not have more than one street tree in every lot. I'm throwing this out for the rest
Don't
of you.
forget the cost they're saving on the root barriers. We can't forget that cost.
When you have a moment, can we propose an alternative for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We definitely like the idea of trees. I think there's a couple things we're balancing here. There's a mitigation requirement and a total number of inches we're trying to provide, which I do
Correct.
think we will exceed. And then we have, as you've noted, smaller areas to plant them. One thing that we would like to consider is obviously if we have a street tree, we would do a root bear as required. That would be traditionally between the sidewalk and curb, as most street trees typically are.
But it won't be 30. I think I read, didn't you say, April, that the root berries would have to be 30 feet?
I think they were
from the
30 or
tree?
40. I can't recall the exact
Yeah.
dimension, but
Well,
it was
could do
defined.
in the
In the years where we had street trees, I think the thing that we would ask council to consider is if we still plant the same number of trees, but perhaps some of the trees that were prescribed to be on lots moved into the park or moved into the open space areas or around the ponds. So their trees are still there. They're just moved into areas of different locations.
My personal preference would be for you still to have the 3 trees and that you go with understory trees for 2 of them and only have 1 street tree per lot. And that when we get ready to make a motion, I'm gonna ask, because I don't want us sitting here like money changers at the temple, but I want to have our planner discuss a remediation amount for each of the two understory trees that are replacing the street trees, and that the understory trees and the amount would go, I think you're quite correct, Mr. Mayor, the amount that would go into the tree fund that we have for planting trees within the city as compensation there. And we need to have the understory trees have 2.5-inch diameters also, which means they'll be slightly bigger trees than otherwise, hopefully. So
And those per lot? Okay, yes, because the street trees on a lot, on those sizes, it's going to be problems.
yeah, I don't care if you start with a, if you start with a 2.5-inch street tree, it's still eventually gonna grow up to be a big tree. So we need to face that issue now to keep people from having to remove literally hundreds of trees
Well,
in
we
years
should
from
have
now.
learned the lesson from Venezia. That's exactly what happened over
It's
there.
about 60, 70 trees were
Yes.
taken out of Venezia because they're just in a position, they're either going to be a problem to the sidewalk or more
Or
importantly,
to the underground
to
cable.
the utilities. And also, I had a house in Montverde that was built in 2000 and I sold it in 2017. They had actually got live oaks in the medium, and the damage that they were doing and the size of them. I mean, the root on the surface, literally on the surface, was as big as the trunks on a normal tree. They just grow to such huge things. And with these smaller lots, I had a half-acre lot, but with these smaller lots and with what we've already seen, one of the other problems is my neighbor next door has a live oak and I have a live oak, did have a live oak. And the two trees literally are going to end up going into together. And the damage that it can be, not so much to the sidewalks, but even to the foundation of the house, because we don't have any root barriers on them, I'm pretty sure. So,
Okay.
May I, excuse me,
I have only one more.
but before you continue, I'd like to just ask for a clarification on what we're suggesting for the code update. My name is Charlie Crawford, work with the developer, Toll Brothers, 8186 Blue Star Circle, Orlando. So currently the requirement is for 3 canopy trees, one of which is a street tree, and then 2 additional understory trees. So the suggestion right now, I believe, is to remove 2 of the 3 canopy trees and replace them with additional understory trees. So the requirement would still be for there to be 5
Correct.
trees per home.
Correct.
And I do appreciate this conversation because it is a concern that we brought forward to April while we were going through these plans. We felt like the lot sizes that we have at this community are a little prohibitive to the town code, and we're hoping to have this conversation. So I appreciate that.
Okay.
You brought this up.
Is the 5 trees too many to put on the lot?
So my concern is that the 5 trees is still not getting to where we
Yeah.
want to be. And
So 3 trees total would be it.
so I think 3 trees total is an ideal situation. We're going to go above and beyond this, but it gives us more flexibility to do other types of plantings, backyard improvements and such. It gives us flexibility for where the
Okay.
driveways are going to go in the front yard. Some houses will have a 3-car garage, some will have a 2-car garage. So it gives us a little bit more flexibility there.
Great.
We're still planning on going above and beyond what the minimum requirements are for landscaping, but
Yes.
I do want to express some desire to maintain some of the tree quantity on our property, just for the overall aesthetic and the level of detail that we're trying to bring
I
here.
agree with you. 3 trees, 1 street tree and 2 understory should be sufficient. And we'll include that, and April can include that in the negotiations for the money to go into the tree fund later on. And so they're getting a reduction of 2 trees from the town code per lot. and they're downsizing 2 trees. So
What I would like to suggest as an alternative would be for us to maybe say 1 tree per lot, will contribute towards to the fund, but then to move 1 tree per lot to common space so that we can maintain, some of the numbers of trees in the areas and then beautify some of these common spaces that
does
otherwise.
everybody find
would be
that
less treated.
reasonable?
It's reasonable.
It's too
Okay.
good.
Can you just, sorry, I must have missed something here. Can you just explain the difference between a canopy tree and a street tree? Because I thought that they were the same. Is it position wise or?
Canopy, that
There's-
they are canopy trees, I thought.
There's a list in the Land Development Code of canopy trees, and there's probably about 10 of them, but there's only 3 that the town identified that would qualify as a desired street tree.
So street trees are a subcategory of some of the canopy trees.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, Paul thought so.
Part of the reason they were separated, we went round and round 2 years ago, if you'll remember, on the different sized trees. A live oak might grow 80 feet tall.
Yeah.
A magnolia might grow 80 feet tall. The maximum size of a crepe myrtle is about 25 to 30 feet. So the canopy trees tended to be tree species that were between 20 and 30 feet in height when they were mature, whereas the street trees could be 50 to 80 feet in height when they're fully mature. And I just think in this community, if you've ever seen a crepe myrtle that's 30 feet tall, it's a big tree.
Well, they have them on Lakeshore, don't they?
Yes.
But the other great thing about crepe myrtles, and I have one in my yard, is that every year I chop it down to the nub, taking off probably another 10 feet of foliage. And that year, the next year, it just does the same thing again. So it's not like it has to be in the
Right.
ground, growing and growing and growing like the ones on Lakeshore.
Yes, they're amenable to pruning, yes.
Very.
Okay, I have only one more item. Because a couple of my items were answered, such as what in the heck does DBH mean? But, and that is on plat C006. It shows an overlay of the traffic circle on County Route 48 impacting approximately 16 lots in phase 2 and phase 3 of the development. Some of the lots are significantly impacted. Some of them are only minorly impacted. In other words, the right-of-way that's created for that traffic circle may make some of your lots not feasible. How do you propose to address that?
We've been working through the geometry of that. In the original plan, we had a little extra area kind of right at that intersection, so more open space. The roundabout is shifted to our side of the property, so kind of north. And so it's consuming some of the open space. It is impacting a few of the lots. Those lots were already deeper in those cases. So in some cases, 150-foot deep lot will go to 130-foot deep lot or whatever that may be.
But all the lots will still meet the minimum requirements in your developer agreement, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah, that's
When
the
you
intent.
get to phase 2 and 3.
That's correct.
Okay. And that's it. You probably say that's enough.
Okay, I have a couple, you covered a lot of what I have. I think your proposals are good. I think they're way too generous. I think the developer is saving millions of dollars on the sidewalk and the trees and so forth. That's just my opinion.
Well,
the
just to answer your comment, Miss April is gonna stand up for us
I
on
hope
that.
so. And I want to ask her a question. In the MMS report where they're responding to your comments, it states street trees are being removed from the landscape plans after discussion with Miss April Fisher. Is that, I mean, did you say they could just take them out? I'm curious as to what your role is.
No, that's that's when I started with a discussion on that. There were questions about them being able to meet all of the tree requirements on each individual lot. And they thought that a separate street tree was being required by the code, or they wanted to make sure if a separate street tree was being required by the code, or if it's the street tree that would be on the individual lot. And so when I did the research based in the land development code, a separate street tree is not required. The tree in the front yard is considered the street tree. So I let them know that. And so that note just reflects that they're not having to provide an additional street tree. And that's what they removed.
Okay. Just a little interesting story. Prior to Reader LLC purchasing this property, I had the opportunity to drive Dean and his colleague Jeff around. And I took them through Venetia and Talashay. And they said that in their minds, they were not very attractive because there were no street trees. So I find this whole conversation kind of interesting.
That's just because a lot of this, like there was like 70 street trees that were taken out
I
because
know.
they
know.
were going to cause a problem to the
Yeah,
homes.
because lots are, that area in the front.
Right, but most of
Too small.
most of the lots in Venetia, I think, are bigger than the,
They
the
are.
lots
They
that
are,
these
but
guys are talking about.
With Venetia, the lots are bigger. I think they're, what are they, 75 by?
75 by 120 and 130,
Yeah.
and some of them are even 80 by 130.
Yeah, but the setbacks in the front are not that great.
Right.
They're very, very close.
Yeah, it's backyards. Yeah. Okay. Let's see what else I have here. Okay, on the Howey, the water page, why are the meters being installed by the city of Tavares?
David covered that. It's just a typo.
And that was an error from Don Griffey.
So
That was the first thing that I
Yeah,
covered.
so we're going to install them.
That is correct.
Okay.
Don Griffey,
I saw that and I said, oh my gosh.
Don Griffey also works with City of Tavares. And he had our logo and naming on the bottom, but he missed it at the top, so.
Okay. So when I asked you the question about the crosswalks, it will meet complete streets. Okay. Okay, and one of the things that concerned me here, and I did go back and look at the development agreement, but with a decision as major as the sidewalk was, I really thought it should have gone back to planning and zoning, because planning and zoning did not have that. You mentioned that in parentheses, that it wasn't discussed.
It's not really my item, so I can't speak to it, but I was asked to put it in from the town engineer's report. But it's not my item, and just put it in there for to make sure it's covered.
Right.
But in doing so, I did want to let town council know it's not something that was discussed by the planning board. The development agreement is clear because it ran through my mind if it should go back to the planning and zoning board with respect to the same, once it was called to my attention. So I looked at the developer agreement and it's very specific that any waiver.
It said that.
Yeah,
I
has to
looked
be.
at the developer, it said it didn't have to go back, it was town council.
Yeah, so if, but yeah, unfortunately I can't speak to it because it wasn't one of my comments. Thank you.
Okay,
I have one more question that just came to mind. You're gonna have 2 guard posts, are you not? On each end of the main road? Are those guard posts gonna be manned, or are they just gonna be gate type of things where you have like a railroad crossing gate that opens and closes as a car approaches?
They will not be manned. We don't have plans to man them.
You're not planning on manning them? Are you gonna have little booths there like they have in the villages?
If there's room, we're considering it, but at this time, they're not in the plans.
Okay.
If I could have the opportunity whenever it's appropriate, I would just like to read back the condition regarding the mitigation for each lot. If it's, so whenever I can do that, I would appreciate that.
Now might be a good time.
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you. So this is what I understand, that the developer is being allowed to have a total of 3 trees on each individual lot, with one of them remaining a canopy tree, but it does not have to be one of the designated street trees identified in the code. It could be another canopy tree.
No, no, no. One of them has to be a street tree, one of the 3 designated. The other 2 would be understory trees, as shown in our code for understory trees.
Okay, so it has to be one of either the magnolia or the southern oak. Okay, so you still want it to be
Right,
one of
that
those.
one tree in the front yard still has to be,
In the front yard, the live oak
yes,
on those lots, are we talking about?
yes. One street tree.
That's
Okay.
not how I understood it.
And 2 understory trees.
Understory tree is where? I thought that was what would go on the lot itself, because the live oak type of a tree, the street tree of a live oak on those lots will create problems.
Aren't you going to have the root
The root barriers.
the root
Yeah.
area on that tree?
And they said 30 feet extended.
Mhm.
So
I think our interpretation is if we had the street tree between the sidewalk and curb, we'd have the root barrier. Otherwise, we'd meet the spacing requirement of I think it was 7.5 feet.
7.5 to 10.
Yeah, but
Okay.
that's why I asked you, and you said you'd put the roof barrier on even if it was in the front yard.
But I guess I was thinking between the sidewalk and curb to protect that.
That's how I understood.
And then we would move it further away from the sidewalk in the other scenarios.
To me, if you have it in the front yard, you still need a root barrier.
Well, if it's within the 7.5 feet of a sidewalk or a building, it has to have a root barrier.
It's 15 feet plus the diameter of the tree, plus the amount of space you have on the other side of the sidewalk.
If the lots say 20 feet
Then
from
can't-
the sidewalk to the house, they plant it right in the middle.
They're gonna
So
require.
it's 10 feet to the house and 10 feet to the sidewalk. They would not need a root barrier. But if it was less than 10 feet to either of those, it would require.
So you're saying the sidewalk's 5 feet. You're putting 5 feet in for the sidewalk?
No, I'm talking about the inside edge of the sidewalk. Trees don't grow through concrete.
That's right. So, but you have to consider that when you're talking about the setback I didn't think was from the sidewalk. I thought it was from the curb.
I'm talking the distance from
It's
the-
measured
from
the
concrete to
plane,
concrete.
From the front, and this is land development code, going back to that 7.10.12 D, well, C, D, and B, but it talks about the front plane of the house to the sidewalk, because that's
To the front of the sidewalk.
Well, right, it's from one concrete point.
Okay.
So put it within 7.5 feet of the house. They need to have a root barrier between it and the house also.
There was no release from the requirement for the root barrier in any scenario. But the way that I understood, just to make sure from the previous discussion, I had written down one canopy tree, but it could be from any in the canopy list. It doesn't have to be the designated street tree, but it has to function and be placed street tree.
What I said is street tree and 2 canopy trees. 2 understory. What is a canopy? Is it defined separately in the code?
So street tree is defined within canopy. So a street tree is a canopy tree, just a specific canopy tree.
That's how I understood it. And that was a big conversation, David.
Yeah,
we had-
you're right.
We're doing this and when.
So I'm okay with the canopy tree.
Okay, yes, sir.
And they,
I want to make sure
just,
that we're not planting 3,600 trees and 10 years later, we're removing 3,600
Okay.
trees.
So I'll put that as one canopy, but it has to function as a designate, like a street tree. It has to be located in the
yeah.
front. And then 2 understories, but they can be front or rear like the code currently
They can
allows.
be wherever
Okay.
you want them to be.
Thank you. And then I do want to clarify because one of the mitigation pieces of your plan with respect to all trees and how they're mitigating for removing trees, that is dealt with in a total DBH, if you will. So how whatever they're taking out, they're put in. The way I understand your desire for mitigation specifically with this is that the developer is mitigating for the 2 trees you're not making them put in.
And mitigating for going from street trees to
The understory.
understory trees also.
Okay.
Because right now they were showing that in the charts that I think they were gonna satisfy 3,400 of the 3,600 caliper inches in phase 1. But by making this change, that's going to substantially reduce the percentage of tree inches that they are going to be moderating. So it probably will take pretty much all of the 3 phases for them to meet the requirement that we have.
So they're doing really well as far as mitigation numbers overall, and they're meeting that. But I think with what the intent you're looking for here is you're willing to give them the ability to not have as many trees per lot, but you want that specifically mitigated on its own, not as part of the.
I want to give them flexibility, but at the same time, I want to make sure we have trees in the community and that we're not ending up removing a huge number of trees when they mature.
And I understand that you do not want the mitigation to allow them to put these trees offset in other areas.
That's correct.
Thank you.
The one street tree has to be in the front yard, though.
Yes, sir.
May I just add one point of clarification? One thing we would request with your motion is the ability to pay for one of the trees in mitigation as negotiated with April, and the ability to actually locate one of those other trees on property in an open space or somewhere. So they're still staying within the community. So we have the flexibility to do that.
Which I think is what you were going for,
Yeah.
right? You
As
expanded
long-
somewhere else.
As long as you reach the total mitigation
That's our goal. Yes.
requirement that's in the documents that were in here, yes, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
But I want to make sure there's enough trees and the homeowners don't dig them out like we had happen in 1 or 2 of our communities, to be unnamed, and that they actually water them and that they will grow to be nice little trees and a nice little neighborhood at some point in the future.
Okay. Just to clarify that, they have to pay into the landscape fund, mitigating for one of the canopy trees they're being released from. The second canopy tree they were being released from, they can mitigate by putting it somewhere else in the development.
Yes, and
Thank you.
it will count towards the total mitigation of the trees that they have removed.
Thank you.
Well, that was a mission. All right, any other council comment? Then I'll open it up for anybody from the public who would like to talk on this item only.
We do have someone online. Mr. Huseman, go ahead.
Joshua Huseman, 671 I'll be the place. One thing I think the council might have forgotten is in the land development code 7.10.02, tree requirements for residential development. There was an addition in section D with the smaller lot frontage. There was 5 allowed street trees. They were specifically called out as the Natchez crepe myrtle single trunk only, the purple leaf plum, sweet bay magnolia, Chickasaw plum, and weeping bottlebrush. These might be perfect for these smaller lots because those types of trees do not have invasive roots. Whereas the live oak will actually seek out water and go for the pipes, which has happened to several people in Talashe. Thank you.
Didn't you put one of those?
Yes, we have the Japanese,
Yeah, yeah.
Burberry and then the weeping bottle brush. And they are doing very well on the product.
So that's a thought to incorporate, even though the 20 to 26 feet doesn't
Oh, and
apply.
so
Do they meet the requirements for understory trees, the ones that John just mentioned?
They are, and I'm jumping back and forth here, but the Natchez understory trees includes the Chickasaw plum, the crepe myrtle, the Natchez
Okay.
crepe myrtle, the bottle brush. I missed what the 5th one
That's
is.
fine then.
So yes, those are all understory trees.
John, that fits right in.
And they're perfect and they're beautiful and you can pick different colors.
So are you pivoting to make it those 5 particular understory trees?
Well, whatever the understory trees are that are in our code.
Oh, because there's about a dozen more in addition to that that could be used.
But those 5 that you mentioned are the ones that seem to be the most popular.
Those, yeah, that's why in code they were kind of the preferred ones for smaller
Yes.
lots to replace.
So you want to specify that they be restricted to those 5?
I don't have that section in front of me and I don't have that section memorized, but correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that those were identified as if you can't, that the council could consider those specific understory trees to meet the street tree requirement if it could otherwise not be met. So I believe what you would be doing is you would be saying that you could replace that one street slash canopy tree was one of those very specifically defined understory.
With those 5.
Yes, sir. I believe that's what that
Yes.
is saying.
Is everybody okay with that?
If you recall, David, that is that, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. David, if you recall, that was one that we agreed to for Venezia and Talashe when it came to the trees.
Yeah, when we
So
had
the-
that code enforcement.
The whole big code enforcement problem, and so it worked out because if you go through the community, you'll see quite a few of the weeping bottle brush.
And I just want to clarify. So Mr.
Mhm.
Huesman, you still had your time remaining and you raised your hand again. So I didn't know if you had any.
Sorry, I was just wanted to clarify that was, I brought those up because those were replacement for street trees. That was a lot of the concern from the homeowners in Talashe and I'm sure in Benicia as well, that we are responsible for that area with spaces at a premium, as you all understand. So by doing something like the Natchez crepe myrtle and specifying single trunk, it still grows beautifully 20 to 25 feet. It provides shade, but it will not seek out the plumbing and the sewage pipes like a one of the residents in the back of phase 2 of Talashe. They weren't even in for, I think, 8 months, and they had a busted pipe because the live oak went straight through their sewage. So they had sewage spilling into their yard. So that was more my clarification was those 5 are permitted as replacement for the street trees, and they should not need root barriers because they will not invade into those spaces. They're not invasive. They should not pop up the sidewalk.
That's good. Thank you, Josh, for that call out.
Necessarily agree with the last part because
But
my
this-
my daughter had to take her Natchez crepe myrtle out of her backyard because it became very, very big. Now, she lived in
Really?
that house for 21 years and that tree was 30 feet tall and it dominated her little postage stamp backyard.
Never do crepe myrtle, but that's.
Most of us cut,
But I agree that I don't want to see any laurel oaks, number one, and they're not allowed. And number two, live oaks are okay, but they need plenty of room. So do southern magnolias, which is a street tree.
Yes.
They need lots of room. Is one of these 5 trees the dwarf magnolia? Because that's a very nice looking tree,
I don't believe so.
isn't it?
Um,
Sweet Bay Magnolia, not just crepe myrtle, purple leaf plum.
Sweet Bay magnolia, that's the one.
Chickasaw
Okay.
leafy.
Sweet Bay is a dwarf.
I'm okay with those 5 being the ones
Okay.
that can be used for the understory.
You mean
And for the street tree.
Any other?
Any of the other 9 can be used for the understory.
Understory. Thank you, sir.
My feeling is they're saving a huge amount of money by approving that.
And Miss April is gonna negotiate
April.
that with them and come back and tell us how successful she has been.
And I would iterate that I believe that the land development code requires that you all agree to that. So whatever I negotiate, you have the right to agree or not agree with it.
Well, if you bring it back and,
And
Yes, sir.
we
We look at it.
hopefully will approve it.
yep.
So does somebody want to craft a motion?
I make a motion that we approve. Let's see what this is called.
The final subdivision. For phase 1.
Phase 1.
Adopting the final subdivision plan for Lake Hills Phase 1 with several conditions as follows. 1, they correct the plat to show town of Howey-in-the-Hills instead of city of Tavares in the Howey water
It's
details.
not a plat, that's a town document. That has nothing
Okay.
to do with that.
Scratch that then. Let's start over. That they be provided a waiver for the sidewalk along County Route 48 in Phase 1 in exchange for a donation of $50,000 to be used at the discretion of the town
Council.
That they be allowed to vary from the town code to have a total of 3 trees, 1 being a street tree and 2 being understory trees. And the 5 trees which you can enumerate will serve as the understory tree, as the street tree, and all 14 of the understory trees can be used as understory trees. Do we have anything else?
Yeah, where's the mitigation for the trees? It needs to be in the motion, doesn't it?
Well, that's one of the, and that they provide the mitigation that to be negotiated by the town planner and brought. Condition number 3 is they negotiate with the town planner to be brought back to the town council a mitigation amount related to the reduction in the tree requirement.
And if I may add, with mitigation being represented by paying for one and the other canopy
And
tree
the other one can be counted towards the total
and be placed elsewhere.
and be placed elsewhere.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
those that are placed elsewhere, do they have to be canopy trees and not these 5 lesser street trees?
if they're, if they are understory trees that are put in, there would be a mitigation amount that you would negotiate on each of them. If they put a street tree or one of the canopy, 5 canopy trees in, there would be no mitigation amount. That'll be condition 4. Are you guys on board with this so far?
We are on board with this. I do want to clarify just one item, with regards to what permittable street trees or canopy trees we're allowed to place on the lots. Are we, just limiting us to any of the canopy trees or the 5 understory trees that are within the current town code, but not, the laurel oak, if that is in the code or not? I'm not 100% sure.
Laurel Oak was taken out
Right.
about 2 years ago when we approved it. You can use for the, what's called the street tree, the 4-inch caliper.
Mhm.
You can use any of the 3 that are listed as a street tree, plus the 5 canopy trees that are understory trees that were mentioned earlier. Now, I think one of those is in both categories. So that gives you a total of 6 trees that you can use. And the planner can go over those 6 with you. The Sweet Bay Magnolia is listed as a street tree and a understory tree.
And I think I partly know where Charlie may be coming from with his question. The code does also identify that you can propose to use a different tree than what's on the approved list if you can provide data that it meets the requirements. So if council would be okay with them using a potentially different canopy tree or tree, or if you want to just keep it straight like you've got it, that's okay too.
I would like to leave it straight as we've got it.
Okay.
And the other 9 understory trees that are in our code can be used for one of the 2 smaller trees that we're requiring to be put in each lot.
Thank you.
In addition to the 5 that we're designating that can be replacement for canopy trees.
Thank you, sir.
Slash street trees.
I don't mean to belabor this issue. And I
Okay.
appreciate the council's flexibility and discussion on this matter, but I do want to request that with April's guidance and approval and the town council having final right of approval, that we do consider allowing us a little more flexibility on the street trees to ensure diversity of landscape packages, because we do plan on offering landscape packages so that we can control what trees are planted where, what the streetscape's going to look like, but we do want to allow our landscape architect additional ability to enhance.
We've
streetscape.
given you the ability to use 14 plus 2, 16 different trees. Do you have ones other than those 16s that you're proposing to use?
So personally, today, I do not have any additional ones. I just want to, the way the landscape code is written for the town, it allows us flexibility to tailor the front yard packages in the best way that we see possible. And we did hire one of the premier landscape architects that operates in Orlando to help us with this community. So I just want to make sure that we're providing them as wide of a palette as possible to do what they do best.
Okay,
And
I don't want any Brazilian peppers or things like that, which are prohibited species.
Those are invasive, 100%, yes.
Right, and we've gone through a lot of effort to identify the trees that were included, and I thought they were pretty inclusive. There were certain ones, for example, dogwood trees will die in Central Florida. You can't plant a dogwood tree in this area of Florida. You can in Tallahassee, but you can't do it here. You can plant it, but it'll be dead within 18 months of the date that you plant it. So I don't mind adding a fifth condition that says that with approval of the Planning and Development Board, that additional species can be added to the number.
Thank you.
Does this mean that you're sending this back to the planning and zoning?
No. Only if they want to introduce a new tree, it has to be approved by the planning board.
Just the use of the tree.
Excuse me?
Just
The use of the.
Yeah, the use of,
Substitute trees that aren't in that five, then they need to get it cleared through planning and zoning.
or in the 14 that are allowed for the understory.
So.
Yeah, because there's one in both categories.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
It's this.
Just to clarify, it's the street tree. You can, for the canopy tree, you can use the approved street trees plus the 5 understory trees that qualify as that. So there's
Right.
the trees that are defined as street trees, we're able to use those. And then the 5 others that are understory can be kind of upgraded, if you will, to the canopy tree. Is that, do we understand that
To
correctly?
fulfill the canopy tree requirements.
Yeah.
Yes.
Correct.
You've got a total of 7 trees that can be used for the street tree.
Okay.
Okay. Because one of
Which
them
is
is in,
yeah.
one of them's in both categories.
Yeah.
So there's 7 separate species.
Okay,
And then you can use a total of 14 species
for the understory.
for the understory.
Okay. And then the other
There's a lot in
the
on
other 2
top.
trees, one would be a mitigation payment, the other would be the ability to either pay mitigation or move on site.
Correct.
And those could be, or provided they meet the spacing requirements for sidewalks or whatever, they could be whatever's on the pallet list in there.
They can be one of those 16 trees
Those
that
16
we
trees.
enumerate. If you want to add a 17th tree, you need to go back as a minor, was that a minor amendment to the plan and get the planning board's approval?
One point of
I don't
clarification,
want you to have to come to us.
Fair
I
enough.
want you to go to the planning board.
for condition number 4 about the mitigation tree that can be relocated. Previously, it was stated that that would have to be a canopy tree, which would include the listed canopy. Wait a second. One of the 5 understories that would replace a street tree, or it has to be at the level of one of those street trees. So that relocating that tree, it would have to meet the same requirement as the one street tree that is required, is the way that I had that written down. If you allow them to let it be any of the understory trees, then it's not the same tree that they're being released from.
Right, and there has to be mitigation for it,
So,
which can go into one of the 2 categories.
but you would want it to mitigate at the same level, right? So if they're mitigating for a canopy tree, it would have to be the equivalent of a canopy tree.
Yes.
Okay.
Or if we put an understory and say a canopy's 200 and understory's 100, there'd be we put the $100 understory tree in and there's a $100 upgrade charge, if you will.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Is that clear? Is that clear, John?
This mud.
Wait, what was that?
That is my motion. April, could you try to repeat my motion for me?
I will do my best, sir. Okay, so the motion, as I have it written down, is that you're making a motion to approve the final subdivision plan for Lake Hills PUD Phase 1 with a waiver from the requirement to construct a sidewalk along County Road 48 across the project's Phase 1 frontage due to severe geography and constructability challenges in exchange for $50,000 in donation to be used at the discretion of town council. The next condition is that they are allowed to have a total of 3 trees on each lot instead of the code required 5. One must be a street tree, and that the specific LDC replacement of the 7 understory plus the designated street trees in the code may be used to meet that requirement. A total of 7 species can be required or be considered for meeting that. And then there are 2 understory trees. All of the 14 species in the understory list may be used, and they can be built in the front or the rear. The street tree has to be placed in the front. The next thing is that they have to mitigate for the 2 canopy trees they're being released from for each lot. To do that, they can pay mitigation for 1 tree, one of the canopy trees, and then for the second canopy tree, they can mitigate by placing it somewhere else in the development project. And it would be a canopy tree or one of the 5 understory trees that was designated as being able to replace a street tree. And then the 5th item condition is that if they want to have a different tree considered, that they would have to go back to the planning and zoning board to seek approval for that substitute tree before coming back with the mitigation plan to town council.
No, they don't have to come back to town council. They just need to get approval by the planning board.
Well, I have
They
to,
do still have to come back though,
They still
for a
come back.
mitigation
They still-
plan to be approved.
Yes.
Okay.
But she's just, so that the 5th point should be that, if they want to add an additional tree that's not on the list, that, planning and zoning board is the venue for the, allowance of the additional tree to be added.
Yeah, I don't want them to have to go through 2 approval steps. I think 1 is plenty.
But that is separate from the approval of the mitigation plan that you're negotiating.
yes, it is. But I was just trying to memorialize that that would have to be taken care of before the mitigation plan is brought back to town council. So it's okay though. You don't have to put that. Right. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion. Yeah, I understand it as much as it's gone around, but I understand.
Is this a straight up and down vote, or do we need a roll call? Okay, then let's have a roll call. We spent enough time on it. Let's
And we have public comment. I don't remember, to be honest with you. did we?
I think it was so long ago.
Mr. Hughes.
Somewhat, we did
Okay.
have public comment.
I thought his was just about the trees.
No, we did.
It was public comment.
We did
I
have
know
public
wanted
comment.
to respond on the top.
His was part of it.
Counselor Arnold,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Everline,
I appreciate the developers working with us. I still think you guys are getting away with a huge deal. We're gonna have a sidewalk that goes nowhere. That's gonna be really ADA compatible. That'll really work a long way to get compliance. So I'm not happy with that. And the problem with the trees for me is, because we're gonna allow these 5 others, we're not gonna have to put root barriers in. So my vote is no.
Counselor Miles,
Yes.
Counselor Lanneman,
Yes.
Mayor Wells,
Yes,
motion passes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 7 has been removed to a future meeting, so we'll work on department reports. We don't have anybody here from town hall or the police because you get your own little spot.
Okay, I'll keep it brief. Woodard and Curran is planning a presentation at our next meeting on the topic of wastewater, continuing the discussion on not only the $3 million in planning funding, but the overall scope. So they'll be coming in for that. We have President's Day next Monday, a week from today, February 16th. All public offices will be closed. And we have a half marathon that Flow Dash will be holding on Saturday, February 21st, just so you're aware for traffic patterns. Thank you very much.
We have nobody here from the police department and code enforcement, public services was here a moment ago, but I know, it's just I've come to this point and Morgan wants to make some comment, so that was the reason why I was bringing that up. But thank you anyway. Town attorney, do you have anything?
I handed out two memos, one about proposed constitutional amendments. The other one is proposed House and Senate bills. And if anybody would like to have additional information on anything, let me know. We can get you more information, and the session will runs for 60 days. It started on January 13th. So we will have a updated report next month with things that will be important to town.
Okay, thank you. Did you have anything that you wanted to say, Morgan?
Update
Okay. Finance report is in the packet. Town manager, back to you.
I did mine.
Well, you did it in the wrong place. You did under town hall. We want town manager. Council member comments. Tim, you're up.
Yeah, I got a number of them tonight. First one, I had a number of comments regarding Monday's meeting on 7-Eleven. Many residents have stopped me in the street and expressed concerns to me. One is the notice of special meeting, changing the meeting to February 2nd, did not state that it was regarding the 7-Eleven. It stated Venezia Commercial. I know it's obvious to us what that is. It's not obvious to the public. So many people had no idea what that was. The agenda that was published contained all 4 support letters favoring the 7-Eleven, yet none of the opposition emails that were submitted to town hall were included. That's leading completely one way and is biased. The developer received 1 hour and 40 minutes to make their presentation. The residents were told they had 30 minutes. Again, an unbalanced field.
Hey, Tim, not 30 minutes, 3 minutes.
No, 30 minutes.
Oh, combined, gotcha.
Let me just cover that one just while you're there, Tim.
We provided about an hour.
Yeah. Well, I know it went over. It was not an hour, David. Wasn't even close to an hour.
Well, there were 15 people that actually spoke.
Right.
What was the total amount of time that the?
Over there, 3 minutes.
That's the reason why I asked you.
But every single, I remember telling them here,
Everybody.
everyone spoke.
Everybody
except
that
one person
wanted to
was
speak.
face.
But the developer got an hour and 40 minutes.
But the developer's not bound by.
I understand that.
So
And
the
I understand
developer
that.
obviously talks for longer because he's making his case. Plus, the fact obviously he's arguing his point against some of the comments that are brought up with different people.
Graham, that's fine, and I understand that. I'm just saying, in my mind and in many residents' mind, it's wrong. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Okay. Our lawyer made a statement about Ron Roberts suing the town. Every developer can sue our town.
Oh, sure.
I think that that was unnecessary to bring that up, and I think it makes people nervous when they hear that. The meeting was held on February 2nd, despite me being out of town. Now, that wouldn't have bothered me, except we were told by the town manager that the reason the first meeting regarding this subject was canceled was because the developer wanted every councilor member to be here. I think it's very interesting that when I'm the one that's going to be out, well, then we schedule the meeting. And I'm going to point to you, Sean, a couple of people in this town prior to the town council ever hearing the 7-Eleven stuff, a couple of people were told by you, now this is what they're telling me, I wasn't there, so they were told by you the 7-Eleven was a done deal. So all I can say to you is if that is true, shame on you. Okay.
Well, it was never a done deal because when I met with Ron Roberts the first time, I told him that if he brought that vote today, I would vote no. And at the end of that meeting, he asked me,
this isn't
would I
about
check-
you.
No, I know. I'm saying but the thing is, Sean does not make the determination whether it's a done deal. We do. And in that situation, I was undecided. And at the end of it, when he asked me again the same question, I would not give him an answer. So right up until that point, it was not a done deal because if two other people voted against it, it would not have passed.
You are missing the entire point that I'm trying to
Well,
make.
I
The
think what
point
I'm-
is that if town people are being told it's a done deal.
I kind of believe that Sean would tell somebody that's a done
Well,
deal.
I'm not saying he did or didn't. Two people that I
you're
know
making
are
the
friends with
accusation.
him stated this to us.
I'm-
Okay. Now, okay, I have a question for the lawyer. Who owns Venetian Boulevard?
The town.
Who owns
Who owns Venetian Boulevard?
the right of way underneath the
Yeah.
Venetian?
Was that dedicated to the town?
Yes.
It was dedicated by the homeowners association to the town.
Not the homeowners, that's a master association property, so it don't have anything to do. with the
So the
homeowners.
homeowners have no say. in
Not
that?
for Venezia Boulevard, that's a master association
about the
project.
town?
The townhouses is under that master association project. That front portion that you may be referring to, where the bell tower, the median, is that what you're
Yeah,
referring to?
well, the whole
Yeah.
thing, really.
Well, that's master
And
association.
there's no homeowners involved with that?
No,
Okay.
the single family, and even the common.
Town streets.
Well, hold on one second. That's where I'm about to go, David. Is that like the streets and the sidewalks? That's dedicated to the town.
Okay.
But when you talk about like the median and that commercial segment, that's master association under
Okay,
the
but the street
master.
owned by the town. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, here's one of the things that I think has to be done. That intersection, because you have three more commercial enterprises, whatever they may be, coming in there, turning on the road. You'd mentioned Palazzo or whatever. If there is an accident at that intersection, all of the people in Venetia are trapped. They're not going to be able to get out because the entry exit that was supposed to be opened is not open. And I think we need to put that on an agenda. In fact, I think it should be on the next agenda, a discussion.
Are you speaking about the back gate?
Yes, the Revels Road
Yeah.
entry exit, whether, given all this, whether that should be opened. Because I think there's a real danger to the people that live in that, both the communities, the townhome and the single family residence.
Could I suggest we have a capital project. We used to have two. In last year's budget, we consolidated it into one project. And it includes both of those gates at Talashe and Venetia. And it provided in 2 out years in the 5-year plan. the conversion of,
Talashay,
of,
do they have a back gate?
Yeah, they have a
yeah,
back.
yes. That the two of them would be paved by the town and opened. We pushed in the last 2 years, to my recollection, we pushed the one in Venetia back a year each year. So it's like 3 years out. Now, they're not going to have all these things constructed for 2 or 3 years. I agree with you that during the budget hearings that we need to discuss that, but I think it's premature right now.
Well, I was going to say it is that time to bring the capital improvement plan back to council for its annual revisit. Parks and Rec still has to provide their annual feedback on it, but after that it'll be coming to council. So hopefully by the first March meeting, so that would be on the schedule.
To also regarding that, their townhome, I think that's over 100 homes. They don't have a second exit.
They do. It's Palazzo.
Is Palazzo there now? Yeah, I guess it is.
Well,
Yes,
it's
that's
a
their
little
second
stub,
ex-
but it's
Right,
Yeah.
that's the one that I'm speaking of that I didn't want
that's
cut
really
through.
why they built Palazzo to begin with.
Well, Palazzo, if they come out of there, they will be able to take Palazzo out and go out of the north entrance of this
Go right,
7-Eleven.
right in.
But all of this situation is going to be discussed, particularly the safety aspect of it, with the input of FDOT when we come to the site development plan. All of this is going to come up, and that's the reason why, bearing in mind that the last meeting was just the conditional use of the gas station, because without the gas, all of this is still relevant, simply because whatever goes in there, first off, the developer doesn't even need to come and ask us permission, but we're still going to have the same problem, which we are going to address at that time to ensure that all of the things you bring up and they're relevant, that they are addressed. The same as we spent a lot of time addressing the safety aspect for the children with the bus stop. So it's on the radar. And at the end of the day, that's the time when that's going to come forward. And by the way, that total time of public comment was right at 45 minutes.
Okay. This is to John Brock. Why did the Zoom change, John? Like when I used to be able, it would be blue, I could hit the Zoom and get into the meeting. I can't now.
There is no, you mean, why did it change on the website?
Yeah.
It's because the website changed and I can no longer put it in the same place. It's still listed in the agenda. It's
The only way, because I've since played around with it, and the only way I was able to get on it, now of course there was no meeting, but to see that is going through the calendar.
you can go through the calendar too, or you can go on the agenda just like Sean has there, copy and paste it into your web
Grab it.
browser.
And then put it.
So
Every single
if
agenda.
you're a tech novice like myself,
Tech dunce.
yeah, I wouldn't know.
I
how to do
would
that.
be more than happy the next time you come for an agenda prep to show you how.
Well, now I can get it through the calendar by, I played around and could figure it out.
Okay.
But that's why I couldn't get through. And then when it says hit star six, star six, star six, star six.
Well, you were
star six.
using your phone like you called in.
Yeah,
That's different than
I
than
use,
using Zoom link.
no, I use this. That's what I use.
You dialed in with your
You
phone.
dialed in with a phone.
With a
you
phone,
did it-
no.
You did it
Yeah.
as
Right,
a,
that's not
as a
using,
dial in.
Yeah,
that's not
number.
using Zoom on an app.
Yeah.
That's using dialing a phone number.
Yeah, it's different using the web link versus.
Right, I get that. I didn't expect to get into the Zoom with that. I expected to be able to be heard in the meeting, which ultimately I could. But there's a huge lag. And I don't know if that's just the system. or-
I don't know. I highly recommend that no one use their phones.
My wife uses the phone and she's on the line right now and she has no trouble with it at all.
Okay,
I'm sure if she can navigate it, you can, Tim.
impact fees. Where do we stand? You guys told us that everything was sent in and the water didn't look good. I'd like to have something in writing, what was sent in, what the process is? You know, you said there were gonna be tests.
When will we have the results put on the agenda?
We just had a meeting last week and, giving them more information. They're looking at within 30 days having the initial report. So that would put us at the first March meeting to have an initial report.
Okay. This is directed to Counselor Arnold. Twice now, you have asked fellow counselors to resign. I just want to say, and also there's been outbursts to people in the audience. I believe that all of this is inappropriate behavior. Whether we agree with each other or not, we're here to do what we believe is best. And to me, it's just, there's times I've gone home, I can't sleep, but I don't bring it, out on people in here. I just think it's inappropriate. And as a mayor, hopefully, and you did say something, and I appreciate that. And I think that should continue, if anything, and with any of us. If that happens in the future, just say enough and cut it out. Let's see. I think that's it.
Councillor Miles?
I have only one thing. I want to express my appreciation for the way the town council handled themselves during the discussion over the 7-Eleven. I think we all had different viewpoints on it. But we came to a conclusion that was reasonable. Having a second gas station in the town of Howey, to me, as a resident of Howey, is a plus. I have only bought gas one time in the town of Howey, and I learned from that not to do it again. Because the current situation, the price of gas in the town of Howey is extraordinarily high compared to other stations in the region. But I thought the town council in general, to include this and the staff, to include our attorney, handled themselves quite well in the presentation, that we did provide 11 different conditions of approval. So we did our homework in general, and some of us may not have liked the outcome. I personally liked the outcome because it provides me more commercial facilities close to where I live. And I think most folks in Howey feel that way. I may be wrong, but I do think most folks in Howey would like to have a second gas station in Howey, and that location is okay with them. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry, I missed you out, Mr. Miles. Mr. Arnold, sorry.
He's a little sick in the head right now.
I am.
No questions or comments.
Councillor Lanneman, Renee?
Yes. I have to say that I want to, I agree with my colleague, Councilor Miles. This is something that even in the previous council that we've had a lot of concerns about. How do we get commercial to Howey? How do we be able to spend money in our own town? For many of us, especially, even after the meeting on Monday, and I'm not refuting that there are people that are against it, but I also received an encouraging call from someone who stated that they felt that we did our job, we did the homework, we had the conditions, and that there were more for us than those that were against us because it was needed to have an additional gas station, and especially where we polled our staff. And in the event of emergencies for this town, if the power goes out, the current gas station do not have a generator. And even still, if there was an emergency, there is also no way of having gasoline other than going outside of the town. One of the number one comments, and I share in that, is that I am tired of taking my money into Claremont, Mineola, Tavares, and even Groveland to spend money when our town have a need for its own revenue. There are individuals that say, well, why can't we get a Starbucks? A Starbucks is not going to come into the town of Howey because they're not looking at the rooftops that are coming. They're looking at the rooftops that are here. So I believe, and I'm not refuting, and I respect, and I don't believe in devaluing anybody's opinion and of what is good and what isn't. But if we indeed have some changes in property tax as wanting to happen, where some of this property tax is going to go away, many of our bordering towns will do well. Why? Because they will always have commercial paying taxes in. I am looking at future and what is for the better good of the town. To Councilor Everline stating about the renderings really not fitting into the town have an eclectic mix of how things are built out. 7-Eleven would have been able to come and build whatever they wanted without the council's permission. I much rather have a seat at the table than to be on the menu for someone to simply say, this is what we're putting, and probably would have put one of the older built out 7-Elevens, which I personally would not have liked. I like their new, what they call millennialist design with the shiplap, the brighter color. If we work together, we can really make that a really good income producer for the town. The town cannot survive on just residential ad valorem. No town can survive on that, especially when you take into consideration that there are exemptions that people are entitled to. And so we have to pay bills. And we need to also think about future. So with that, I believe that, and I want to commend the council, and I do want to say that I am glad to have this opportunity to work with this group and the staff on this particular project because there were a lot of questions. Count Pro Tem Everline, I am sorry that you weren't present in person. And that I don't think was done on purpose. That time moved around. Did I want to come in on the first Monday? No, because that means that we're now in 3 council meetings in 1 month, and I'm not being selfish, but I'm just saying. So, we did our homework. We put a lot of demands on the developer. Now I have even more for the looking for out for the town house people for how that's going to look, the aesthetic, and to consider the fact that we have another commercial development that is even larger than this property that is probably going to be up next for development. What? I don't know. But these are the decisions, unfortunately, that we are faced with, not taking away anything from the previous councils, but Town of Howey is technically about 10 to 15 years behind itself as far as decisions that needed to be made when we look at what's going on around us. We don't want to I don't want us suffocated from revenue because of Leesburg, our wonderful neighbors, Leesburg, Tavares, Groveland, Claremont, and Mineola. And so that is my ad. I didn't intend to say anything. I intended to use my time to adjourn so we can go home. I needed to at least kind of support the comments of Councilor Miles.
Thank you. I just have a couple of things. First off, if all of our ad valorem went away today on homesteaded properties, it's right at 950,000. It's a lot of money. Our police department currently costs us 1.3 million, so it doesn't take an Einstein to work out how much we would lose out of our police department or other departments if we lost the whole lot. I don't think we will lose it all, but I think we do have to make preparations and good decisions to ensure that we maintain the funds as best we can, and we do and make decisions on how we can increase the revenues coming into the town. I think one of the other disappointing things is you see it on the chat. We also see it in Facebook, but the 7-Eleven was just one decision. We spent 4 hours on it. Everybody got to talk. We've spent another 2.75 hours here tonight talking about other things. We make decisions, sometimes hard decisions, all the time. The people that opine on Facebook and in the chat, they looked at one particular item. Even the lady that came in and said that she's going to run for council because she didn't like that one decision left the building straight away. Yeah. So at the end of the day, we are the ones that are elected, and it's unfortunate if we get to a situation in November that those that are up for re-election do not get re-elected. Well, c'est la vie. It is.
Don't run.
Oh, it doesn't. I hope
But
that's.
this is greatly I mean,
I know.
people are saying what they say, but this is a lot of time consuming from your
Right.
personal life and travel life, to make sure that you're here. I'm sorry.
But I do.
But
I
I
also
feel
do believe that the eclectic nature of our council, each of us has different skills, different knowledges that we can bring to the table. And as a consequence, I think that in the most case, we end up making good decisions for the town. And one thing's for certain, we are making those decisions for the whole of the town, not just a minority of the town. Having said that, just one other thing. In April the 10th, we are going to host the Heartland League of Cities meeting.
Great.
We do not have the facility to do that, so we are partnering with Mission Inn, who are going to do that. And the good thing about it is we picked that date because Jim, we coordinated between Mission Inn and Sheriff Grinnell because he's a huge draw. People
I
will
thought you
come
picked
to
it because it's my birthday.
that as well.
So we the library small.
Not for the amount of people.
It'd be tight.
Yeah.
So Mission Inn are going to do it. They are going to lay on good food. I have two of the ladies coming to see us tomorrow to find out exactly what we want. And I think that we'll get a good crowd there, and it will give us the opportunity to showcase Howie at that meeting as well, and also Mission Inn. And if you haven't been to Mission Inn lately, go check it out. It's really, really smart upstairs now.
And thank you for that, Graham, because, that was one of the comments levied at me after the meeting.
Almost every meeting.
Was why don't you guys host a meeting? Yeah. My thought was, well, where would we do it? And my only other thought recently was we'll go talk to Mission Inn and see if we can cook a good deal with them.
Well,
Like we did.
we have met, Sean and I, with Cindy. She is very keen to do it. She's obviously got her own personal reasons as well. She wants to showcase that. She's going to get us some golf tee times and some golf package for those that want to play afterwards, and also a little tour of the upstairs where they've refurbished everything. So I think that's going to benefit us, and that's on April the 10th with Sheriff Grinnell. So with that said,
Upstairs, is that the?
it's probably going to be in Alquiscador.
No, but I mean where they refurbish.
Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah, that whole thing.
Well, they've done.
Margarita or whatever.
Everything.
Yes.
Everything.
All of it. You should take a tour.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
What used to be El Conquistador and Margarita is now one just under Conquistador, but the El Gitano meeting room is now a lounge as well. So I had lunch up there with Michelle not so long ago. Now they've got a lunch menu as well as the dinner menu, and it's really good. Not cheap, but you know, it is the ambience of it is really, really nice. Okay, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, I
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you all for your participation.
Other successful meetings.
One more for the county.
So, Jen.